In this video, we're going to be talking about how to get your truck ready to get on that track and get racing with your transponder. We've had a few people ask us, how do you hook those transponders up? How do those things work? Well, today we're going to show you how to hook these up in your truck. Okay, so the tools we're going to need to install the transponder is a 2mm Allen wrench, and of course you're going to need your transponder and some Velcro and a little extender wire, a little extension wire to plug into your receiver that we can run right outside the receiver box if you have a Traxxas, that little waterproof box, and then a little X-Acto knife, a rag, and some lacquer thinner. Alright, so let's get started installing our transponder. So first off, there's a couple different ways you could get started with this, but we're going to start with the receiver box. The receiver box. So when you hit the trigger or you turn the wheels, you're sending a signal to this receiver. I often look at the receiver as a receiver in football. When you throw the football, the receiver runs out into the field and he receives the ball. So when you send a message from your transmitter, you're sending a message to the receiver, and we got to get into this receiver box. So if you have a Traxxas, they have this nice pretty much watertight box to take care of this receiver, because you do not want to get this receiver wet. So there it is, the Traxxas top qualifier receiver. We want to get right in there and plug into that receiver. So we got two things plugged in right now. We have the servo plugged into channel 1. And then your ESC is plugged into channel 2, and those have to be plugged in that order. The servo has to be plugged in channel 1, and the ESC in channel 2. And then Traxxas has channel 3, and then there's another channel 1. So there's two channel 1s, and then a channel 3. And what we're going to do is we're going to plug into channel 3. You know, there's a couple problems that I've seen with the transponders. They have been great transponders, but oftentimes people could plug them in wrong. So when you plug this wire in, this little extension wire, you want to make sure that the wires are plugged in. White is with white, red is with red, and then black is with black. If that is flipped, if that's plugged in wrong, your transponder is not going to work. So you want to make sure that that is plugged in right. Just follow the order there with the white, red, and black, and then you'll be ready to go. So Traxxas we got it plugged in there in channel 3. We got it plugged into channel 3. It's just basically for an accessory if you have a fan or something like that. Traxxas has a really cool cover. They have this little rubber cap that's on there. And a good way we found is to pull that cap off. And that goes that way. Run that little extension wire through that little cap like that, and then you can actually put that little cap back on just to keep dirt out of there. And that works pretty good. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I just pretty much ran the wire right out of there, right out of the box, right from the receiver, put that little rubber cap back on, and that's pretty well sealed up. Take our Allen wrench, turn that back down. So there we have our extension wire. So now you won't have to pull this cover off every week. You can just have that right in there, and everything's sealed up nice. So now we have our transponder and with our Velcro on the back. When you get these from us, we'll have all this with it, the Velcro. Just pull that off. Pull the back off. Stick it on there like that. Just stick it right on the chassis. Take our transponder. Plant it on there. And make sure again that it's plugged in right. Make sure the black is with the black, the red is with the red. Make sure that's plugged in nice and tight. And then you can take a little zip tie and just make sure it's out of the way. The only problems that I've seen with these transponders is guys leave them up flapping in the truck like this. They're way up high. And then when you're in a hurry, sometimes you want to change your battery. I've seen at least, I think, twice that the wires got pinched underneath the battery. And it actually crimped the wires. So a good thing to do is kind of fold it up in there and take some small little zip ties and just get it so it's out of the way. That's the first thing. You want to make sure it's plugged in right and make sure your wires are not going to get pinched on anything. So there, it looks a lot nicer. Something like that. You can zip tie that right in there so it's not sticking up in the air. It's not going to get hung up by anything. And then you pretty much solved the first problem right there. You got it plugged in right, and then that's there. So the first thing to do is just get it plugged in there with your extension wire. And let's say you're actually a basher and a racer and you want to go out and do some bashing and the truck might get a little wet. You can unplug your transponder because now you have this extension wire. You can take your transponder out of there, or if you rent one from us, you can just unplug it without pulling your cover off and that wire can stay there. So that's the first issue with these. Make sure they're plugged in right and make sure your wires don't get pinched. And usually what I found is wires might be laying over these transponders because they are actually an infrared system. They can't have anything covering them. So first thing I see with this body, when we put the body on, I look right where the transponder is, and I know that Traxxas puts a really good sticker on their windshield. And the first thing we found is that these stickers need to come off. So the way to take the sticker off is take our little X-Acto knife and get that peeled off. And then we need to get a clear spot on the windshield. That's the only thing that really stops these things from working. If there's a heavy duty sticker or black paint, we need a clear spot above the transponder. And if you have it plugged in right, your wire's tied up, and you have a nice clear spot right above the infrared transponders, they will work every time. Most of the problems I see a lot of times are in the four-wheel because there's so many things in the truck. There's not a nice flat spot like this to lay the transponder in there. The stock slashes are perfect. Look how much room I have on the chassis. It's nice and flat. So all we need now to make this transponder work properly is just a nice clear spot on the body. So I'm going to work on this sticker, and then I'm going to clear the windshield off with some lacquer thinner, because Traxxas paint is really heavy duty stuff. It's really hard to get off. You want to make sure when you're rubbing that lacquer thinner on the inside, when we take the paint off, make sure that you don't rub too hard. I've actually seen guys rub right through their body. I saw a guy do that one time. It works really good, that lacquer thinner. So you want to make sure you wash your hands after you're done. So I'm gonna take some of this paint off and try to make Dave's body look really nice. And we're gonna pull that sticker off. Alright, we got our body cleared off here. Boy, that lacquer thinner is some strong stuff. Small little circles. Took me about 15 minutes probably to get that. Just start working that heavy duty Traxxas paint off there. Didn't do the greatest job, but at least we got a clear spot through the windshield now for this transponder. Shouldn't have any problems. It looks great. I can look right down the windshield now and I can see the transponder straight down. As long as there's no paint over that transponder or no wires, nice and clear above the transponder, plugged in right, it's going to work every time. If you do those two things, you're not going to have any problems with these transponders. So we got it plugged in. Now we're going to see if it works. First, always turn your transmitter on first. Then turn on your speed controller. And we should have a flashing light on the transponder. There it is. It should flash about every 5 seconds. If it's flashing really fast, if that transponder is lighting up really fast, that means it's plugged in wrong. You got your black and red crossed. So right now we got a nice, there was a flash. And then we should see another flash. There it is again. About every 5 seconds. So this thing is plugged in, ready to go. Everything's working. We got our brand new slash working. transponder should pick up. This truck is ready to hit the track in the stock slash class. It looks great. So we're going to have these transponders for sale at the track, and then we're also going to have them for rent. So if you're planning on racing with us for a while, you might want to pick up your own. We put your name on the transponder, so every time you go under the timer, your name is going to come up. That'll be your transponder. Or if you're just getting into RC racing and you're trying it out, we have those for rent as well. So there you go. There's how you do your transponders at Granite Bluff RC Raceway.